gamers, gals, and non-binary pals. Like the new camera? You should thank Rosalind for it. Anyways, we're going to be taking a look at one of the goofiest decks I have ever had a chance of reviewing. That is Exodia Crooked Cook Turbo. I'm going to give you guys a brief history about Exodia and Crooked Cook, a little bit of a card by card, and of course, a gameplay review of how the deck should function. So, let's get straight into it.
Draw your last pathetic card so I can end this, Yugi.
My grandpa's deck has no pathetic cards, Kaiba. But it does contain the unstoppable Exodia.
Ah, impossible!
So Exodia has always existed as a sort of dark horse of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's had formats and decks where it's technically been playable, such as in very, very old school formats, thanks to cards such as Backup Soldier and Deep Draw Blue Eyes, but it never really got off to the races. Its highest accomplishment was with Jarrell Winston placing top 8 at Worlds with this deck, using a stun suite of cards such as Waboku and deep draw cards such as Reckless Greed as a meta call against strategies such as Inzektor. Now unfortunately we don't have access to the much slower metagame that Jarrell was playing in, being that Master Duel is the light speed, clusterfuck that it is. However, we do have access to certain tools he did have at the time, most namely the Sharks and Crooked Cook, which reads as follows. It is a rank 4 Xyz monster that requires 2 level 4 monsters, and while you control no other cards on the field, this card is unaffected by other cards' effects. And once per turn, quick effect, you can detach material from the card, destroy as many other cards on the field as you control as possible, and then this card gains 300 attack until the end of this turn for each monster destroyed by this effect and sent to the graveyard. Unfortunately, although it can still be run over by battle, we can amend this problem thanks to Right Hand Shark, where if we make an Xyz monster using exclusively water monsters, typically itself and something like Buzzsaw Shark or Silent Angler, we can make it indestructible by battle. Through this incidental synergy, we can make Crooked Cook using 1-card starters such as Buzzsaw Shark, and extenders through Silent Angler and Instant Fusion, of course, and either draw Exodia or deck our opponent out. So, let's get into the card by card. We're running every piece of Exodia, obviously at 1 because they're all limited and because you don't want to play more than 1 of each piece anyways. Obviously, these cards are pretty low rarity and fortunately only the head is a super, so that's super nice. Next, we're playing our Sharks. We're playing 3 Be a Tunable Princess. You may recognize this from Kraken Control, but obviously you can go into Buzzsaw Shark, and Buzzsaw Shark is able to grab either a Right Hand Shark or a Silent Angler from the deck when you're in a really, really big pinch. Right Hand Shark makes up the heart and soul of the deck, being that it is our battle protector for our Crooked Cook, and we're playing 3 Silent Angler when all else goes wrong. You can play the water Tenyi if you really, really need additional extenders, but I personally am perfectly fine with this. Next, for our hand traps, we're playing 3 Maxi, 1 Ash Blossom, and 1 Nibiru because I can't deck build to save my life. And we have 1 1-for-1 as an extender. For consistency, we're playing 3 Pot of Extravagance and 3 Pot of Prosperity. You may notice in our extra deck we're only playing 1 Crooked Cook, but realistically you could just bump this up to 3 and it wouldn't matter. I just don't play 3 because I don't want to waste SR dust on this. And then we're playing nothing but board breakers in case we have to go second. So we're playing 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, 1 Regeki, 3 Twin Twisters, 3 Cosmic Cyclone, and 3 Forbidden Droplet. You can obviously substitute things such as Lightning Storm and such if you really want, but I'm just playing these because I built this deck at 3 AM. The extra deck is completely irrelevant. All you need to know is that you have to play 3 copies of Crooked Cook if you want to be very, very safe if you're playing Extravagance. Otherwise, let's just jump straight into the game. So, you can see this match, we opened very, very well. We are against Tri-Brigade Zoodiac, and basically we open the Nut Hand. We're gonna normal summon Buzzsaw and activate the effect. They're gonna unfortunately chain Ash Blossom, but it doesn't really matter because we do have the discard fodder in order to resolve our 1-for-1. Now we're going to be activating our 1-for-1, discarding our Nibiru the Primal Being in order to get Be a Tuneful Princess. Be a Tuneful can't only grab just Buzzsaw, but it can also grab Right Hand Shark, which is our missing combo piece. We're going to overlay those two into the overlay network, and we're going to get our Crooked Cook in defense mode. And it's at this point, we could basically just pass our turn. So we're gonna speed it up a bit. So basically not much can really be accomplished by our opponent. They're going to try and run it over and realize that our Right Hand Shark is protecting, and they're going to just go into Almirage and make a bunch of Tri-Brigade plays. They're going to go into Kuras, they're going to Almirage clear up a zone, Kuras is going to banish 2 into Double Dragon Lords and set 2 pass. And basically most of the game will play out like this. Unfortunately, they do have access to specifically Zoodiac Borbo, being that they are playing the Tri-Brigade Zoo variant. This is where the deck really does take a turn for the worse, because this deck does have an issue where you're not able to deal with monsters that pierce or can attack directly. And Zodiac Borbo unfortunately does have that ability, being that you're able to just get the extra 1200 damage off the Whiptail, and Borbo can just really get in there. So they're going to attack us. For that, we're going to switch our Crooked Cook to attack mode and attempt to run over the Borbo. That is going to work. They're going to activate Triplicate Revolt. And again, this is another piece where this deck really does fall apart. If we are forced to put our Crooked Cook into attack mode to say run over a Borbo or a direct attacker, they can just start attacking our Crooked Cook, and although we might not immediately die, we're going to take a lot of damage to our life points, or we might just die. So our opponent is just going to be basically popping off. They're going to make a bunch of plays. They're going to go into Harvest Logger, banish our Nibiru in order to gain the attack steroid. They're going to go into Rugal as a Link 3, and then go into Access Code Talker as a Link 4, boost that up very, very high, and they're just going to start wailing into our Crooked Cook. And we're going to be not dead, but we're going to be at very, very low. We're going to hit him with a Raigeki, and they're going to add Kuros off of the Shurag, and we're just going to hit him with the Harpy's Feather Duster. They're going to use the Revolt. It's not really going to matter. They're pretty much just cycling through their deck at this point. Maybe they're trying to find a specific out. I actually know exactly what specific out they're trying to find. They're going to go into Shurag, which is, you know, just a little bit unfortunate. We're going to hit the Call by the Grave and the Revolt, and they're going to be resolving their Chain Links. Everything's going to be resolving, and we are really at a really difficult situation. We're just hoping we can find Exodia before they can find any potential out. So we draw a piece, we draw another piece, and they're just going to keep setting. We're going to discard Silent Angler, and this is where the second flaw of this deck unfortunately rears its ugly head. They have the Thoroughblade, and unfortunately Thoroughblade does inflict piercing damage when it's used as overlay material. Zodiac Trident is going to be summoned, and they're going to get over our Crooked Cook for 1400 damage, which is lethal. So that was a little bit of a wash. Let's get into the pros and cons of this deck. Pros number one, this deck is very, very consistent. With 6 pots, 12 starters, and a bunch of extenders, you're almost always going to be able to make your Crooked Cook one way or another. And when all else fails, you can always just fall back on like Kraken Control if you really want to do that. Secondly, the deck is very, very cheap. Outside of the staple cards, stuff like Ash, Nibiru, Maxi, which you don't even technically have to play, you can build this deck for almost entirely SRs, rares, and like commons. And third, you're playing Exodia in like 2022. It's got to count for something. And the cons. Number one, the deck unfortunately is really, really, really slow and can get really, really monotonous and boring. Like, you will feel like you're in a coma when you are playing this deck. Two, there are a lot of outs to Crooked Cook. You saw them in the gameplay. Direct attackers such as Borbo or Sky Striker Ace Hayate, and piercers such as Gaia Charger in Virtual World and Zodiac Thoroughblade are the two main culprits, but meta calls in decks such as Kaiju's for Drytron can also ruin your day as well. And third, all your friends will hate you. Ultimately, this deck is the definition of cheese, the curdled milk at the bottom of the bucket that has formed sentience into one of the most unintuitive, boring, and annoying decks of all time. It's Exodia. Like, I don't know what you really expected. Play this deck at your own risk. That's going to be it. Be sure to like and subscribe. And yeah, see ya.